You open this door with the key of reason. Beyond it is another dimension, a dimension of truth, a dimension of freedom, a dimension of joy. You're moving into the land of both the ideal and the real, of the possible and the actual. You've just crossed over into the Capitalist Corner.
Where reason meets reality, welcome to the Capitalist Corner.
That's right, folks. Where reason meets reality. This is the Capitalist Corner. I'm your host, Mark Pellegrino, and also the chairman of the American Capitalist Party, along with my co-host and vice chair, Michael Liebowitz, who is also helming this amazing station, The Rational Alternative. Michael, tell us what's going on the station, please.
Well, it's a channel, I think.
That's right. Channel. That's the way to say it. That's right.
Well, tomorrow, tomorrow at noon, we have Megan Ribbons back on to discuss some more education with at noon on the Capitalist Corner weekend. Sunday morning at 11, I'm going to do a members only thing. I just have to set it up. So if you're a paid member, you'll be able to join me for a stream. I'll have some stuff. You can ask some questions. It'll be fun. We'll have a whole thing. And once I get stuff situated, we'll add some more shows to the channel.
To the channel. That's right, man. Good, Michael. And are we streaming live anywhere right now besides YouTube or anything else?
We're on YouTube and we're on X. Unfortunately, I don't know how to stream to Twitch because I'm, special.
We got to get those gamers. We got to get those gamers, man. They're heavily socialist influences. They need to come over to the fold to free markets, brother.
Yeah. I'm very sad. I mean, I'm smiling because I'm generally a happy person, but this loss in this war to Iran, I posted to Facebook this morning that I vehemently opposed the war. I opposed it because it was unconstitutional primarily, and some other reasons too, mostly the person who's at the helm, Trump. Now, however, we're in a situation where you've taught a maniacal, homicidal, religiously fanatical regime that they hold the cards. That's dangerous. And I think there's a good chance that it will end up making war with Iran urgently necessary. They've already, I don't know, it's a very fluid situation, but this morning they shut down the Strait of Hormuz again.
Michael, what did I say just yesterday?
Yeah, I don't remember because we talk a lot. But Trump says, "Oh, they're through now." Dude, nobody cares. Nobody's afraid of you. Nobody gives a shit what you say. Trump, I mean, not Mark, of course. But you now have a very much emboldened regime who understands that the world is scared to death of having the Strait of Hormuz closed. And they're going to wield that power until somebody stops them. And I'll tell you what, it's not going to be to stop them 6 weeks or whatever of bombing. It's a dangerous situation, and it's got me very upset. It was unnecessary. This did not have to happen.
Well, I mean, we saw the writing on the wall ages ago, but when the Memorandum of Understanding came out and Israel's existential existence literally was tied into this peace deal, their removal from southern Lebanon was tied to whether or not the peace deal would go forward. I said immediately, Michael, this is going to be the place. I mean, the deal is awful all the way through, but this is the worst possible thing. It's a brilliant move on the part of the fanatical regimists in Iran, because what they're doing is drawing a schism between Israel and the United States. And given the worldwide antipathy towards Israel, they're just attempting to drive basically their last ally away from Israel and make Israel fight on alone, which, of course, could precipitate something rather apocalyptic. I hate to say it. If Israel feels like its back is to the corner and has no other choice but to retaliate in much harder fashion than it has before, we're in trouble, Michael. But also, a new association was formed, the Persian Gulf Strait Association, which is supposed to now regulate trade through the Persian Gulf. It's Iranian-based association that is going to impose tolls on people who go through the strait. The very thing that they weren't supposed to impose for 60 days is an official organization within the regime now.
Well,
And the regime understands all it has to do is close the Straits of Hormuz, and the whole world goes into turmoil. And what the fuck is Trump going to do about it? What is he going to do about it?
So just let's listen to a few things here. So this is from CBS News. Headline: Iran's top negotiator says Tehran will not waver from its red lines in new talks with U.S. They're the ones that are putting out the red lines?
Yes, that's the
Right.
perception now. Yeah.
As we have shown in the past path of negotiations, we are steadfast in fulfilling the conditions and red lines set and in achieving the interest of the Iranian nation. If the enemy seeks to be excessive, we have proven that our fingers are on the trigger and we have no hesitation in giving a crushing response to the enemy.
I mean, it's all hyperbolic language. They really don't have the capacity to do that militarily, Michael, but they know that when they close the straits,
But that's all
everybody's
they
going to
need,
freaking
though.
back down.
Right, but that's all they need is to close the straits. And if they're doing, I mean, the Iranian Supreme Leader Khamenei says that Trump signed agreement out of desperation. In the course of reaching this stage, the officials in charge, out of sincere concern and goodwill, made extensive efforts. And of course, it was the American president who, out of desperation, used all kinds of leverage to bring this about. That's Khamenei. Look, I agree with you. Look, governments use hyperbolic language. There's no doubt about that. But the thing is, the Iranians have stuck to it, what they're saying. It's Trump that keeps making threats that he doesn't follow through on.
Mm-hmm.
They've really learned that they're in a position of strength with the Strait of Hormuz and that they're dealing with a buffoon on the other end. That's dangerous. I don't know what's going to, I'm not going to make predictions. I don't know, but I think that it's a very real possibility that war does become necessary.
So,
If they-
yes, exactly. This is what I was thinking, Michael. As I was reading this stuff, I was thinking, okay, so there's no real recourse for the United States at a certain point. It has to simply crush Iran militarily.
Right.
It cannot just leave. I mean, Yaron Brooks said the other day, what America should do is just leave. They should just leave. They shouldn't try to rebuild Iran. There shouldn't be a deal. They should just walk away, and that's it. That's certainly one alternative, but we don't walk away with any international dignity or cachet. Certainly our enemies see us as weak diplomatically, strong militarily, but unable, because we don't have the moral force, to use that military the way we should. And this has pressed us into a semi-apocalyptic situation, Michael. I really feel Iran is pushing that envelope to the point where we will have no choice but to fight. I fully agree with you.
Yeah, it's like, we talk in economics about the unintended consequences. And prior to February 28th, Iran was a dangerous regime, granted. But they weren't doing this. Because now they're still doing everything they previously were, and they're using the Strait of Hormuz for leverage.
Yeah, before they were just extending their hegemony into Iraq. They were trying to do it in Lebanon, fucking around with fighters in Syria, basically a regional force trying to assert hegemony over the Arab states in that area and the Muslim states in that area. Now their control is becoming global, Michael. It's becoming global. And so, look, you're right. There is no choice but to fight. As I said before, Michael, I said this weeks ago. The only thing the president could do is regime change. He can't do anything less, and that's never been his proposition from the very beginning. But there could be no less than ousting the regime completely.
Meanwhile, go ahead, Mark.
go in the spirit of World War II, capitulation of Japan and occupation and imposing democratic mores on them, constitutional government. Now Japan was willing to accept those things at the time with a 5-year military occupation. I don't think we have the intellect. I mean, MacArthur was a bit of an intellect. He understood constitutional law. He understood history better than certainly Trump or anybody in command of policy now. And I don't know how the population would take to a military occupation, Michael. We certainly have the rest of the world against us with respect to stuff like that.
Well, and just so everybody knows, super chats, super stickers, greatly appreciated. And now JD Vance is on the Attack Israel tour, where he just keeps criticizing Israel over and over again. We also have this interview that Trump did with Axios, where he said what he's learned is that his power as president is limitless. He's expressing the two leaders he respects most are what's the guy now? I can't even remember his name from China. I'm all
Xi Jinping.
Yeah, Xi Jinping. Him and Narendra Modi are the two leaders he respects the most. Evidently, he's constantly praising dictators. The Italian prime minister said, why does Trump spend so much time praising dictators while he's criticizing his allies? I was just talking, Mark, to my friend Subby, and I said this has become a very dangerous situation now. It's not since Trump came down that escalator, I've been criticizing him because I saw what he is, right? And the thing is, it's not just a matter of normal politics where you criticize the other side or, I saw him as a unhinged, undisciplined narcissist. And we're seeing that play out on the world stage. In the first go around, there were restraints on him. But the more the restraints come off, the more the rest of us see the effects. He said he was going to be able to completely pay down the debt. The debt's exploded. He talked about booming economy. The economy's not booming. He's going to get inflation under control. Inflation's not under control. He's going to be the no new wars president. Now we're in an utter debacle. He's going to make America respected again. We've literally got all over social media, for God's sake, Iranians laughing, basically saying, ha ha, bitch. It is an utter disaster. And, I posted a clip of myself saying it's an utter disaster, and all the Trump guys, ha ha, you're so stupid, TDS, ha ha, TDS. All right, dude, it's going great. That's another thing. What is it with these MAGA guys that think they're alphas while they're filleting Trump on a regular basis?
Yeah.
Like, how do you think you're positioning yourself as an alpha male while you carry water for this jackass as your lifestyle now is just to carry water for Trump? And yet you're like, yeah, we're the real men.
Yeah,
not so much.
The new manosphere is a paleoconservative who, shoots up testosterone and thinks he's super tough. Even though he's probably never been in a fight in his life, and challenges everybody to fist fights on social media.
When I was a teenager, I remember, we would go over girls' houses and they would have pictures on the wall, like New Kids on the Block or Kirk Cameron was another guy.
Oh, yeah.
That type of stuff, Teen Beat and Tiger Beat or whatever, and it's all over the walls. I just picture these guys having pictures of Trump on their walls, and they're like, oh, he's so dreamy. It's really
bad.
pathetic. It's really bad. And, we have to report on it because what else are you going to do? But I'm quite frankly sick of it. But, I don't see it getting any better.
Usually the fringe of, would be about 5 to 10% of the population. But this is a good, this is a good 15, 20% of the population has bought into this MAGA movement, which is, I hate to say a cult, but it certainly is reminiscent of one, right? They have an all-powerful guru that they follow irrespective of the facts. There's even a sexual component, I hate to say, but you said it. They're filleting this guy under the the situation desk, or whatever the desk is that he's decided to put in the Oval Office, while ignoring all the facts of reality, that this guy cannot manage the affairs of state, is simply too much. So you're right. We are in a much more dangerous situation than we were when we started this thing. Russia and China, who I'm not really afraid of, Michael, to be honest with you. I don't think totalitarian states have the capacity to really fight a more or less free state. It's really, they really don't have that capacity. We prove that their technology sort of sucks and that ours sort of wipes it out instantaneously. But I mean, we do have a man in office who admires Xi Jinping's style of governance and would like to take us more there. If you look at any of the the governments taking shares in various corporations under the aegis of protecting national security as an indicator of which way this guy wants this country to go, that should be cautionary, Michael. Because it's certainly not republicanism that he's seeking to preserve.
So the latest news here, I guess, is that Israel and Hezbollah have now agreed to a ceasefire.
Yeah, but let's talk about why it was Israel started flying planes over Lebanon this last time around. Basically, Michael, Hezbollah, here's what they do. There's a peace agreement out there. Hezbollah knows darn well that its pappy state has linked it to the efficacy of the peace treaty. And so what they do is they send out, they do something horrible, like they sent anti-tank drones out there and they attacked a tank unit, killed 4 IDF soldiers. And they want to see what the response is. They're pushing the boundaries. They want to see if Israel's really going to, commit itself to more warfare, or if they're going to let Trump tamp down the response, and they just will push the boundaries further and further and further to see what they can get away with. This is what they did. Israel sent in a retaliation, bombed a bunch of Hezbollah infrastructure, took out a bunch of buildings, killed about 1840 people. We don't know yet how much. But now, of course, that was the cause of the breakdown of the Iranian negotiations, which we knew was going to happen. We know that Israel cannot, in good conscience, capitulate the way Trump did.
So, Mark, your smile is amazing, somebody says. I can't read the name. I don't know who it is.
We don't read Cyrillic. Thank you.
That's what that is, Cyrillic?
Yeah.
Okay. Mr. Deagle says, I get idiots justifying Trump, but what I really don't understand is people who are usually smart, like James Lindsay or Victor David Hansen, who will make up anything to try to justify this debacle. I don't know either. I mean, there's a lot of people that are true believers when it comes to Trump. There's people that are grifters, and then there's people that are just dumb. And I don't know. I can't wrap my mind around it either, Mr. Deagle. I don't. It's like the criticisms. They all say, no, he's getting bad advice. They start off with the premise that Trump is brilliant, and then whenever things don't go that way, there's always some other reason other than Trump. I don't know. But, let's move off of this schmuck here.
But wait, I wanted to say, I think James Lindsay, I know James, I mean, he is a super smart guy.
Today's open questions, by the way. You forgot to say that.
Yeah, we got to do the Q&As too, guys. If you have any questions, please. And it could be anything. It could be about anything. If you want to get off the dire news out there today, that's fine. It's depressing to me. If you want to hear something interesting, ask a question about anything. I'm an open book. I'll answer it. I'm sure Michael is too. But
Can I tell you about my chapstick?
Wait, let me tell you
about James Lindsay first. Yeah.
Yeah, James Lindsay's a super smart guy, and he's made some great analysis with respect to the woke movement. And I respect his analysis on Marxism and cultural Marxism and the Frankfurt School. It's all quite brilliant. We need it in the world. But Michael, I get the feeling that guys like him and Victor David Hansen, they may be throwing their hat in with the only guy they think fights the left, because I think that's their prerogative. Their prerogative is the left is the enemy, and this is the only guy who actually fights them. And that I don't know. It's the only thing I can think of, because Michael, if you're still backing this guy at this point, something is seriously wrong with your epistemological faculty.
Yeah, one of the best things I ever did in my life was completely break myself of any semblance of tribalism when it comes to politics. It's a dead end. Once you get into defending your party or your side, you're going, especially when it comes to someone like Trump. You're really heading out in a bad way. I don't know
Yes.
much about Lindsay. I only see him on X, but
I read his book. I thought it was good. I think Peter Boghossian too went down the rabbit hole of modern nationalistic conservatism. I mean, for a while he was a fan of Hungary and the conservative quote unquote state over there. But these guys are reacting to. I mean, how did they make their bones in the world? By exposing leftism and leftist ideology in social studies in colleges, and mostly they got deplatformed, they got disowned by the academic community, and so I think their primary beef is with those guys. And anybody who seems to align themselves against that cultural movement is okay by them because they think that cultural movement is the biggest threat to humanity. I think it's I don't want to get into what I think is the case. The worst threat, the left or the right. The right is a little more organized, but just as irrational. So,
well, we're going to get to the left in just a moment here. So, Jeanette is advocating Burt's Bees, which is interesting because that was what I was going to tell you about. I told you how the other day I left my chapstick at Diana's house. So I went out and I bought 2 Burt's Bees. One of, I don't remember the whatever, there were two of them. So the other day I immediately lost almost the one that I started using. So I had to dig into the other one. I looked and I looked and I looked and I looked and I couldn't find it. Now this morning I lost the second one. I'm like, what the hell? So I'm running around the house looking for the second one. I found the first one, which is Burt's Bees, but I'm still missing the other one. Just so you know, I mean, you don't seem interested, and I think I would appreciate maybe a little bit more sympathy with my chapstick.
I feel no sympathy for you. There was somebody who said Carmex, baby. That's objectivist, Matt, 3550. Carmex is old school, man. Burt's Bees is new. Carmex is old school. That's back in my day. You had Carmex. Hey, Katie says, does the drone attack threat on the White House and the fact illegal immigrants were arrested for it change your mind about getting rid of illegal immigrants? It doesn't change mine. Michael, I don't know about you.
No, it's the same. People like to use sensationalist stuff. Like, oh my God, look, this is an immigrant. Let's get rid of an immigrant. But I don't see if a white guy, for instance, commits a robbery and then I think, oh my God, we got to start paying more attention to white guys, or anything of those of that sort of ilk, or that category. Just because something happens doesn't then make me say everybody that belongs to that category of person, we have to be suspicious of them. The question is the immigrant crime? First of all, I start off with the idea that people have a right to freedom of movement, right? Onto anybody's private property that will have them. I saw chap and I said hap. So that's my first thing. So now you say, well, look, we have this problem. This immigrant committed this crime. Okay. Let's just go down and say we're going to try to stop that. What are you going to do to get immigrants out? What's it going to cost? And we've already seen some of the stuff with ICE, and how bad it was when you unleash ICE on the streets. And okay, so Ian Gilmore says 4 out of the 5 people arrested about the drone plot were U.S. citizens. Okay, see, there's the thing. So should we ignore that, or should
not only that, they were radical Christians. They're I think the basis for their planned attack was to start a revolution. So they're not unlike many of the Christian nationalists out there. They want their own theocratic state established, certainly frightening. And I don't think we have to worry about Christians, though, or deport Christians as a result of the fact
and
that
that's
some are crazy.
kind of that was what I was kind of trying to say. And he, Mr. Deagle says, if most crime is committed at night, should there be a national curfew? People use one-offs to try to get emotions going, try to get people scared, try to get people angry. The fact of the matter is we don't use, or we shouldn't use, isolated incidents to make foreign policy. It's like every time there's a mass shooting, the Democrats come out and say gun control, gun control, gun control, with nothing about how gun control would actually have prevented the specific shooting in question. But they try to use those as examples so that they can then, oh, look at this, Persephone's
here. Persephone,
with 50 rands. Thank you, Persephone. You're the best. We need you back.
I was just thinking about you, Persephone, and wishing that you were here so that we could see you. Your expressions are priceless.
So Halo, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to address what Halo said too. If you want to read that,
he says Democrats represent the slow, contribute nothing. I don't know what this contribute nothing to society. People of America. While wanting open border, like this is not. I don't really.
It's not too coherent, but I get the sense. I get the sense of what he's talking about, which is, the Democrats contribute nothing to society. I agree with you, since their political contribution is not liberty, it's not innovation, it's restraining all of the above, and that they advocate for open borders while at the same time maintaining a social welfare state. That is certainly a dynamic tension that is not feasible. You can't have open borders in the world that Michael and I want, which is a world in which your living is not made off the back of your brother, or services aren't provided to you by compulsion. So you're coming over here because you're trying to improve your state. You're moving from a worse place to a better place. And as a result, you have the opportunity to work at whatever wages you agree upon with your employer, and to live as you see fit. Now, in such a case, you coming here does not place any undue burdens on anybody. The socialization of state, of certain institutions like the welfare state, healthcare, schooling, does place burdens on people. So it's a paradox, Michael, that I don't think the Democrats could solve.
The idea of right. Ian Gilmore says the tribal label Democrats don't contribute is ridiculous. Some Democrat policies are bad. That's it. Anything else is exaggeration or propaganda. And I kind of agree. I think that by and large, I don't like Democrats. I don't like Republicans either. And what I mean is, I'm not saying I don't like Democratic people. I'm talking about political parties. I don't like the policies they put out. They're both very detrimental toward the free society, the capitalist society that I want to live in. And we're going to get to that in a minute. But first, Nicole says she loves Persephone, and Persephone says, I miss you guys. Just popped in quick to show some support and love. I hope I'll be back soon. So do we, Persephone. So Mr. Deagle says, do mentally disabled people who can't take care of themselves have rights? Jeanette says, yes, they do. Kathy Cassio says, yes, they do have rights. Katie says, why wouldn't they?
Well, see, but rights, yeah, I would say, of course, they have a basic right to their life, but they are not autonomous in the sense that a fully rational person is autonomous. If you're talking about, you said mentally disabled, so they don't have control of their rational faculty and need somebody to stand in for them to make decisions for them. So they are, is it the ward, Michael? They would be basically, they have to be the ward of somebody, has to be in control of their lives for them and be their proxy out there in the real world, essentially. But they have a basic right to their life, yes. But
see, okay, so it's a very complex. I always bump this thing. I do need a new mic, and I may get one soon. So, oh, Jesus Christ, Kathy says. It's a very complex discussion. It's not as simple as, yes, they have rights. Why wouldn't they? In order to really address it, we'd have to get into what rights are, why do people have them. This is not the format to have that discussion. They do not have the same rights as somebody of sound mind any more than a child has the same rights as an adult.
Exactly.
And in my daughter's POA,
The child is the ward of the parent, and likewise, somebody who has a mental disability and cannot take control of his own life has to be the ward of somebody who can. So they don't have the same rights as fully functioning human beings, but they do have a right to their lives.
So it's important to understand something, and this is about power of attorney. The concept of right is a moral concept. It's an ethical concept. It's not some intrinsicist gift from God. And the reason that people have rights, the reason that morality exists is because people have volition. People have volition. We have a rational faculty that operates by volition. And this is why we need morality. This is what gives rise to morality. When you get to somebody, for instance, let's take the example of a cat. A cat, we don't say has rights because a cat can't behave ethically. It's not operating by volition. It's not making rational choices, right? So you go up the scale to different, types of animals, and you get to humans. Humans have volition. We have to operate by choice. We have to both discover what is good for us and choose to go get it. That's the root of morality, right? And then from there we get into rights, which is a moral claim to something. But if something can't act morally, it can't have a moral claim to something. So depending on how bad you're saying somebody's mentality is diminished, it certainly would lower the amount of rights that they have. Now, that doesn't mean it would be okay to initiate force against them, to kill them. It's something that really needs to be worked out in rights theory. I haven't done it. Right. So I can't answer the question to the depths that I would like to. All I will say is that to the degree somebody doesn't have rational volition, that person is not, that entity, that being is not a moral entity.
Indeed. And that's why they have diminished capacity, Michael, in courts. I mean, if somebody is not capable of understanding the rightness or wrongness of an act, then they have diminished capacity, and the sentence reflects that. Thank you, Katrin. It's a contribution to your new microphone. €20, man. That's pretty good. In dollars? Thank you, Katrin.
Thank you, Katrin. Thank you.
So did you want to go? Did you want to go on to something else while we field these questions? Because Trump is very depressing. It's a very depressing.
Okay. So the whole show was. So I thought we were gonna do a quick run of the news. Whatever. But the Democratic Socialists. So a Democratic Socialist won in Washington D.C. recently. So it won a primary, but it's D.C., so likely going to win there. Mamdani won in New York. There's a Democratic Socialist in, I think, Seattle. Of course, Bernie and AOC have a lot of energy behind them. That's where the energy is in the Democratic Party. Look, they've got momentum and they've got energy. And the Republicans now, not to be outdone, are pushing more they want to legislate to make it easier for the government to buy stakes in private companies, which ultimately is what the Democratic Socialist end game is, to have. You could say public ownership, but it boils down to government ownership of the means of production. That's what they're aiming for. We don't confuse democratic socialism with social democracy. Not the same thing, right? Social democracy is basically a welfare state with free markets like we have in, say, Sweden, Norway, the Nordic countries. The Republicans simply don't have it to oppose these people. It's funny because when I criticize Trump online, inevitably somebody tells me I'm a Democrat or I'm a communist, or they criticize Marxism, which I'm sure they don't understand or know anything about. They just heard someone say it. they have no arguments. They have no logical case against the thing which they hate. And that scares me.
It does, because once again, folks, we are faced with iterations of statism as our alternatives. Slightly less statism, or statism geared towards a particular group of folks, as opposed to the democratic version of it, which is the people own. In the name, the government, of course, takes it over, but it's in the name of the people. There's got to be another alternative, folks. The alternative that exists out there is the American Capitalist Party. So please go to AmericanCapitalistParty.org, read the policies, donate, be a part of the change. You do not want to be a part of a democratic socialist world where you lose your agency over your life, where the collective becomes the primary source of values that you sacrifice your life for. Now, I don't know. So some people, that sounds really noble. To me, it sounds despicable and horrible. It sounds like it robs human beings of dignity. Now, to me, dignity and pride come from self-efficacy, from seeing how it's from being able to produce and create and live in the world, live by your own mind. It doesn't come from just having material values procured by somebody else for you. It certainly doesn't make you any better. And to me, it robs you of choice. A choice is what enables you to have dignity, folks. Go ahead, Mike.
Well, by throwing, the modifier democratic in front of socialism, they think that it makes it, I guess, less bad than what occurred in the Soviet Union or Cuba or North Korea. But ultimately, democratic is a misnomer there, because Democrat means majority rule, direct democracy, unlimited majority rule. But most of these democratic socialists want to put constraints on that, right? Yes, democracy, but not to vote out the socialism.
Correct.
So the democratic socialism will run ultimately into all the same problems economically that's every other socialism runs into. They have no price system. They have no means to tell where demand is. They have no means to understand what needs to be produced. You end up with surpluses and shortages. It's an utter disaster.
It disincentivizes innovation.
Yes, it does.
Taxes progress, taxes wealth, all of the things that it relies upon to parasitize, it eventually ends up ruining and destroying. Now, Maxwell Montemayor says something strange here, Michael. I think we should both address it, because I think it's a common misconception, and it's a rhetorical statement that all of these guys use as a pretense for opposing capitalism. You sacrifice your life to corporations who use a lack of regulation to have absolute undemocratic control over. I mean, this is so retarded on so many levels. But let's just talk about it.
Well, what it ultimately is a switching of what language means, right? You sacrifice your life to corporations whose lack of regulation have absolute control. Okay, first of all, I'm poor, right? And no corporation controls me, because I have an employer. I don't have to work for him. I work for him because I choose to. And, I've made the choice to not make a lot of money somewhere else, because the employer that I have now allows me to do this as I'm building this up. Whereas if I went to work for a corporation, say, I then wouldn't have the time to do this. But that's my choice. I can opt out. As Captain Chandler.
Thank you, Captain. That was funny.
So
Captain.
that's kind of the point. When we still talk about liberty, we mean the freedom to make your own choices. Corporations don't control you. The fact that life outside of corporations, even if no matter what, life is going to offer difficult choices. Right? Freedom does not mean I can just do whatever I want, whenever I want, without consequences. So the fact that in a capitalist economy, I have to produce in order to get paid, that's life, right? In a socialist economy, they actually put constraints on what you can do, what property you can own, how much you can sell it for, to whom you can sell it, that type of thing. It's a completely different concept, but they combine the two together and say, oh, but if you don't have absolute choice to do whatever you want, whenever you want, you're not free. It's utter bullshit. The argument has been destroyed over and over again, but just like you can point out everything wrong with Trump to the MAGA crowd, and they still raise their hands. Yeah. It doesn't matter how many people die in gulags. It doesn't matter how many people try to flee Cuba in inner tubes. You still end up with guys on the internet who will say socialism's good.
Yeah, and confuse force, which is what one person does to another, and what followers of socialism do to other people, with the exigencies of life and nature. Right, every living thing has to work to live, and it just so happens that civilized capitalist culture, to the extent that we have it, enables that life to be so much easier by not making you subsist live, meaning be the responsible for every single aspect of production in your life. You can defer that to other people, work in a certain area, and exchange for that, which makes your life infinitely better. And Greg Dougherty says something which is spot on. Regulation is state enforcement of business cartels. That's what it amounts to. That's what it amounted to when the first Interstate Commerce Commission formed together. What happened was the railroads, which were state subsidized, they were cartels in their own right, got together and they tried to form trusts where they could control prices. But what happened, Maxwell, is that somebody always broke with the ranks and started charging lower fees. They hated that. That's what happens in capitalism. And so what they did was they organized this. They deferred the trust to the government in the form of the Interstate Commerce Commission. And the purpose of that commission was to enforce price hikes and to enforce anybody breaking with the ranks. And what they did was they put all the people in control of those industries as the judges, as the determiners of the rules. And that's what started this cartelization of business and monopolization of business through state subsidies, state favors. That is not capitalism. No. Capitalism is a separation of state and economics, man.
So this ATEC says, no, it's not. Leaving now. I don't know, dude. You tuned into a show called The Capitalist Corner. What did you think you were going to get?
Oh, what a baby. Stick it out, man. Stick it out. Don't be a pussy.
Yeah. That's a good hat right there.
Don't be a pussy.
Yeah. Now, I really want to dive into this a little, well, not a deep dive, but socialism is a disaster. It's immoral. It's uneconomical. The arguments against it are everywhere, right? The problem is the loudest people railing against socialism have nothing to offer. The MAGA folks, so everybody's a socialism. Every time you disagree with them, you're a socialist. They don't have arguments against it. We need to be putting arguments out there. The problem is when you have a tribal tribal politics, they are the ones who get heard. And it's no easy challenge to get in there and get your voice and get your arguments heard. That's what we need to do. Look, socialism represents the initiation of force writ large.
Yes, absolutely. Michael, yeah, and it's like, okay, so they don't believe in the Marxist-Leninist authoritarian state where one guy is the dictator. What they believe is that everybody's the dictator. It's tyranny of the majority. And who gets lost in that mix? You, me, your next door neighbor, the individual, the smallest unit of society. That's the real minority that we have to protect, and that's the minority that capitalism protects.
Somebody told me the other day that I'm an altruist. It was somebody, yeah. So I put a post out on Facebook and on X meant to be a compliment for Ayn Rand. And I said Ayn Rand was right about most of the things she wrote about. So immediately the religious amongst the objectivists came in. What do you mean most things? What do you think she was wrong about? Yeah. Or boy, that's a backhanded insult. Oh my God, that's a passive aggressive way of criticizing her. And somebody then said to me, you disagree with her on altruism. You're an altruist. I said, what are you, high? And the guy says, oh, you've debated communists. There's nothing more altruistic than that. And I said, I don't think you know what the word means. So I pointed out to him, I said, okay, here's a clip of Leonard Peikoff and John Ridpath debating socialists. Were they altruists? Here's a clip of Harry Binswanger debating socialists. Is he an altruist? Jerome Brook debated Richard Wolff. Is he an altruist? Of course. Then he says, I'm done here. Of course you are. Because you don't have the balls to call your heroes altruists. You just want to say it to me and hold me to a different standard. My point is I'm up to debate commies. I guess this is my so any commies that are watching that want to have a respectful discussion. Noah came out and said, I'll debate people don't have the guts to debate me. He's
a
do it.
Pussy. He's a gigantic
I said, I'll do it.
Pussy.
He said, okay, let's do it right now. I said, give me an hour. He said, nope, it has to be done right now. I said, okay, let's do it right now. And then he comes back, oh, but not on your show. It has to be on mine. Oh, sure.
Yeah, he needs to control the mic. He's a pussy.
Right. Absolutely.
Hey, Dink Smallwood says something here that I think is great. I think we have to push this out here in the world. A lot of that control that certain companies has over us is due to democracy, not capitalism. In democracy, there is an interest group for everything, all in conflict with each other over the resources that are being expropriated through taxes. Yeah, that's a great point. The great point here, Michael, is that in a democracy, everything is up for vote. And we live in a spoil system democracy now, where the object is to gain the levers of power and then vote in rights and privileges for your group, which gives them, extraordinary powers over the people who are outside of the power structure. And so this is a perfect representation of it. In a democracy, Michael, even rights are up for vote. There's nothing that is not subject to majority rule. And the whole concept of majority rule is a perversion of rights and liberties. So our founders were right in distrusting democracy and in wanting to restrain its reach. And it's no mistake that political pundits and politicians for the last 40 or 50 years have been calling our representative republic a democracy. They've been intentionally shifting us towards that ethic, which cannot end in the defense and protection of individual rights.
I'm with you, brother. I asked a question on Facebook, how are adults not embarrassed to use the term TDS? And the guy comes in and says, questions like this make me think you don't take this seriously. And I'm just like, dude, should I not take seriously the rank tribalism involved here? Okay, we've got 13 minutes left. Do you want to talk about Richard Henry Lee a little bit?
Yeah, let's talk about some decent people, man. It's decent people who have minds. Let's do that. So, yeah, I think he qualifies for that. So go ahead, Mike.
So Richard Henry Lee was a Virginia planter, very active at the time of the Revolution. He is the one who, let me find it. I want to get the exact quote here. It's at the, let me find it. This guy, signed the Declaration of Independence. So at the Second Continental Congress, he introduced 3 resolutions: 1 for declaring independence, 2 for forming foreign alliances, and 3 for preparing a plan of confederation. His first resolution was adopted on July 2nd, and the declaration followed 2 days later. They don't have the exact quote I'm looking for here. It's at I'll just look over here. It's what occurs. He proposed it, and it appears at the beginning of the Declaration of Independence. No, it's not even in the Declaration. I'm all over the place. I apologize, folks. Hold on. Okay, it is in the Declaration of Independence. I thought so. It's just at the end. That these united colonies are and of right ought to be free and independent states. That's actually from Richard Henry Lee. That was his resolution. And it passed. John Adams actually thought that July 2nd would be the day celebrated as Independence Day because that's the day that Richard Henry Lee put that in. So, he's a believer in rights. He was opposed to slavery, but he did own slaves, so he does have the hypocrisy, going on there. He helped form the Committees of Correspondence, an ally of Thomas Jefferson, of Patrick Henry, of Samuel Adams. Very, very eminent at the time. Richard Henry Lee. What do you say about him, Mark?
I don't have anything really to add to him except he was a great founder. Look, we're coming up on our 250th birthday when democratic socialism is surging as an alternative to representative republicanism. Of course, representative republicanism has been thrown out since the progressive movement in favor of social engineering and the government controlling everything. Platonic philosopher kings managing us. We want to re-embrace the founders' principles with all of the advancements that Ayn Rand and objectivism were able to introduce, and all the defenses of capitalism, moral defenses, and elaborations on the concept of rights and the origin of rights. We want to bring this back into the fold so that we become the new progressives who really are looking forward to a day of liberty where the human mind and the human body are unshackled from enslavement to a quote unquote collective.
So according to what's this here, Claude, he was an advocate. I know he opposed the Constitution. Richard Henry Lee, I believe, was also the anti-federalist who wrote under the moniker the Federal Farmer. He republicanism and self-government, states' rights, anti-federalism. He was a strong proponent of natural rights philosophy. He was opposed to slavery, legislative supremacy, classical Whig Republican. Very good stuff. Look him up, Richard Henry Lee. You can't go wrong. Any other questions we got from the audience here?
Any other questions, comments, or concerns, folks? It could be anything. If you want to go off topic and ask us anything, I think why not? It's Friday. I'm sick and tired of the gloomy news. I'm sick and tired of Fox News's spins, of conservative talk radio's spins on this, trying to make a shit seem like a shit sandwich, Michael. It's not fun. So any question you want to ask, you got a couple of seconds. So hurry up, though, because we're going to have to start giving the capitalist thought for the day and leaving you with a Q&A that you can answer on YouTube. Remember to like and subscribe to this channel, folks, because we think this message of individualism, rational egoism, capitalism, free markets, free association in all of human affairs needs to be the dominant ethics out there. We need to beat the Mamdanis of the world, who Michael, I mean, he's making quite an impact in New York. I do think he's a very good politician. He's a bright, shiny object, which is what socialists love to focus on. He's articulate, unlike most people on the right at this time. And he's speaking to something that really concerns people. He just has all the wrong answers, which is primarily the affordability problem. He has answers for that, even though it's going to mire more people in affordability crisis. He has answers that the right doesn't have. Anything good going on in your life? Is that well, sure, of course.
Well,
the fact that
I got a real problem here.
Go ahead.
It's my phone has brought this. It screwed up my whole situation here on YouTube and whatnot. I've got to figure it out. So I can't read the answers to yesterday's questions.
Oh, that sucks.
It does. It's we've got 3 comments, but they're not coming up.
So Ian Gilmore suggests, if we want to be more depressed, I guess, that we should read an article in Current Affairs called "It's Basically Just Immoral to Be Rich." It's an amazingly clear description of the morality of altruism. Was it intended to be a comedy, Ian, or is it a serious article? But you get the reference of how awful altruism is by implication. Michael, is anything good going on in your life right now? Because Jeanette wants to know.
My life, I'm pretty stressed out. I've got a lot of depressing stuff going on with the world. I'm stressed out about the channel, But ultimately, I'm a survivor. I'll make it through, and things are going to get better, and I'll be fine. And I have a baseline of happiness that I pretty much don't fall beneath. So that's a good thing.
That's good to have a baseline of happiness. Yeah, the world doesn't look very promising right now, folks, but I continue to hold out hope that rational people will prevail so long as they have moral fortitude, so long as they have the strength to stick it out and they don't let the horde intimidate them.
Does anybody out there, real quickly, I'll tell you what's happened. Everything on my phone now is bigger than it was, and so nothing fits. Does anybody out there know how to fix that? If you do, please tell me. If you don't, well, then I'm screwed. I guess not. Oh, I guess it was.
Oh, it's a totally serious article by Nathan Robinson. That Ian, that is so frightening. It's and would be totally depressing to me. But I think I will try to read it anyway, just because that's the way I roll.
All right,
Michael,
capitalist thought of the day. You want me to give it?
Sure, go ahead.
I just disappeared. Look, I'm just a head with no shirt. Capitalist thought of the day is, I think that there is a problem in this country with people embracing socialism and socialistic policies. If we wish to combat that, we need to be clear thinkers with clear principles. We need to be defending egoism and individual rights. We also need to understand economics and the impossibility of socialism ever producing the results that its advocates claim to want. Now, these arguments are already out there. You can find them in Ayn Rand and Henry Hazlitt and Ludwig von Mises. You can even find an abundance of them here. But we definitely need to utterly defeat the idea that socialism is moral, that socialism is good, and that socialism can create prosperity. All right, you got to ask him a question.
Well, folks, do you think that the Iran conflict will expand now into a much hotter war than we saw over the last couple of months? Because Trump is now backed into a corner. He's losing political capital as we speak and may have no other choice. So what say you with respect to that? Please go to YouTube and answer that question. I know it's a boring political question, geopolitical question, and those don't usually get as many folks answering them, but please answer, because the algorithm likes it, and it looks good for us, and we want to keep promoting this channel and growing it as much as possible. All right, guys, so we'll see you on Monday. Well, are you going to see him later today, Michael?
I am not.
You're not. All right, so we'll see you on Monday, Capitalist Corner, same bat time, same bat channel.
Hold on, don't go sick. We're going to be on tomorrow at noon with the Capitalist Corner weekend, and for members, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, Sunday morning, we'll be doing a stream.
All right, guys, be there, be square, and remember to rethink your premises. Thanks, Dink. Thanks for the talk today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being a supporter. And keep passing the word on to folks out there. And while you're doing that, will you please remember to check your premises? Peace.